Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Super Lunch Roast Podcast, episode number 55. I am Brendan.
And I'm Nate.
God dang, that card was fire. UFC, we just had UFC 261 main event, Usman versus Masvidal. For all it's worth, like we'll go over that in a second. And if you're just tuning in for the first time, welcome. If you like what we do here, please subscribe, like the video. Go check out some of our other ones. If you're just listening to this on Spotify or wherever else you get your podcasts, like we do have video up on YouTube and vice versa. If you're watching this and you just want to take it with you and you don't have YouTube Red or Premium, whatever they call it now, then you can find us on like the Podbean app and Spotify, wherever else you get your podcast. So, all right, with all that out of the way, let's just go. We'll go down the line. We'll talk about the first fight being the main event, Kamaru Usman versus Horry Mazdal. There is so much to get to on this card. So,
yeah, let's get one of the least crazy fights out of the way.
Yeah, so
honestly,
Usman knocks out Masvidal in the second round with a clean right hand. The great still shots of it with like the sweat coming off of Masvidal's head. Like it looks really cool. I thought Masvidal looked decent, but not great. And I thought Usman looked improved, but not to the extent that people are saying.
All right, so I have a suspicion, and I haven't watched it again yet, but if you watch the first round, there was two shots that Usman landed on Masvidal where I thought, and he kind of shook it off, but I thought, oh, he might actually be rocked here, and he's trying to just play it off. Like, I thought there was a point in the first round where Masvidal was legitimately hurt and clipped, but really trying not to show it. And I think that's what developed into the knockout in the second round.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I remember it might be two different shots that I'm thinking of, but I do remember distinctly him getting hit multiple times in the first round and, him just eating them. But, it's cumulative. You take 30 jabs to the face, and then that the 31st stiff jab puts you on your butt. Would that have put you on your butt the first punch of the fight? Probably not. Anyway, yeah, I think Usman looks great. I still think we need to cool it with this greatest of all time talk. I really do. Like, you can't beat first of all, Masvidal's rankings, it's inflated. He's more popular than his ranking suggest. Oh, hold on.
Ironically, I think Usman's intro actually described him the best way, as much as it was trying to kind of shit talk him a little bit. Like, it was an honest assessment of Horry Mazdal. He's one of the ultimate journeymen who's just never necessarily rised up to the level that he needs to be to
no kidding.
Win a championship. And that doesn't necessarily go towards GOAT status if that's who you're beating in championship fights. Like, if that's who you think it is, then you're not beating you're not being the top competition in that division. If you're just facing a journeyman who's never rised the challenge. It's another knockout, it's another great performance, but I don't think what we saw in there was a level of Usman that we haven't seen before.
Yeah, so the way I'm looking at it is, if you took Usman out of the division, do you think Masvidal would be the champ?
No.
Me either. So that's what I'm saying. Is he's not even the second best in that division, right? And I know MMA math doesn't always work like that. So, matchups makes fights, and maybe he could knock Kamaru out if they fought 10 times. Whatever. The point is, Kamaru Usman's a fantastic fighter. I think since he's been with Trevor Weidman, he has improved tremendously. Absolutely. Each time he gets out there. So the next time he fights Colby, which is what Dana White is calling for, he said Colby Covington is next. Well, it has to be. So if you look at who else is there.
I know.
You've got Leon Edwards fighting Nate Diaz.
But yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, it has to. He's the only one without a fight lined up right now. So here's the thing. If Colby goes out there and we see a Colby who hasn't improved much from the last fight, and if that was peak Colby, I think he gets just smoked. I don't see how he beats Kamaru now. With Trevor Weidman in his corner, I think he's not unbeatable. Everybody's beatable. but I think he has distanced himself from the competition in his division, and beating people like Jorge Masvidal does not make you the greatest of all time. It just doesn't work. And like, especially 2 times, and then the Masvidal isn't
All right.
beating anybody else in the division.
I think there are people in the division that can beat him. I don't know if the stars are going to align for those fights to actually get made.
Yeah, I think bang. I think if Leon Edwards gets his shit together, and it's not all his fault. I don't want to be too hard on him because I think the pandemic shit and a lot of stuff dealing with Great Britain. Like I think a lot of that was out of his control. Some of it might have been in his control, like who he's fighting and deciding not to fight and this kind of stuff. That being said, if he, with all that in mind, like I'm just saying, if he gets his shit together, gets this win over Nate, which I highly suspect he will, gets this win over Nate. Now we're looking at, Leon Edwards, a truly undefeated fighter going against Kamaru Usman, and that's a really good fight. And I would love to see that one because they have fought before. Usman did beat him. Oh wait, no, Leon Edwards is not undefeated. Usman beat him. I'm crazy.
But it's a fight I'd want to see, and I also still want to see Wonder Boy Usman. I think I think that out of all the fighters and kind of the top 5 of that division, I think Wonder Boy is going to be the hardest thing for him to get past.
Yes, I really think that if you put Wonder Boy in there with anybody in the division, he comes out with a win. He can come out with a win more than 4 times out of 10, or 4 times out of 10 at like bare minimum is what I mean. So it's like the worst fight he's like 40-60 against somebody. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like anybody in that division, you put him in there, like he can beat anybody on any given night. And I don't mean that to say like, oh, anybody could beat anybody. I mean that his skills give him a great opportunity to beat any welterweight on the planet on any given night.
And I think specifically with Kamaru Usman, his style of forward pressure, very, good, but basic boxing technique, trying to go for takedowns when he has the opportunity. Like, I think his style is well suited to what Wonder Boy likes to counter, what Wonder Boy shines against. So
yeah, the wrestling is going to be the difference.
Yeah. And while Usman might be one of the best, in the division or one of the best in the UFC at that type of forward pressure fighting, like it doesn't work that way with Steven.
Not always. And, we've seen him put on his butt before. We've seen him knocked out by Anthony Pettis. We'll talk about him later with the PFL. It's just he had his shot twice against Tyron Woodley. I felt like he won the first one, and then the second one didn't go well either. Like,
Tyron Woodley did something I don't think anyone expected. Tyron Woodley tried to force Thompson to come to him and tried to pull him out of his element.
Well,
as excruciating
yes,
as it was,
right.
as excruciating as it was to watch, like he was trying to force Thompson out of his element. Thompson wasn't budging, and they ended up not being the best fights in UFC history to many observers.
They're super boring.
Yeah. That was it. And that's why I think the Usman fight, I think that's a better matchup for Wonder Boy than Woodley.
Yeah, but if Usman takes the same game plan as Woodley, he can do the same win. Staying against the fence, only using wrestling.
I guess that depends on if Usman's willing to do that.
All right. I mean, I think it was an incredible performance. I think it's really cool.
Absolutely.
I thought Usman, here's the thing. Usman after the fight, that's the guy I like. He's a genuine human being. He's happy to have his father back. Regardless, if you want to do your research into that, like I did some research into that whole situation. It's unfortunate, and I don't have, I read through as much evidence as I wanted to. It's unfortunate, he wasn't able to have his father for a very long time, and now his father's back in his life. So that's incredible. That's a cool thing for his family to be back together. You can see the love he has for his daughter, how happy he is with her. How, just like how genuine of a person he can be in the public eye when he's in that moment. It's when he's being interviewed pre and post fight at in these press conferences that he's just a total doucher. He's just like he's so fake, and even Connor called him out. Connor's like, oh man, you don't get to take my style, take my words, and then also take my punching, like my punches from me, and then not fight me. He's like, I'm gonna have to fight you at some point. So it's like that's what I'm saying is like Usman saw a way to make more money with his boring wrestling style before, this is before he like hooked up with Weidman. It's not that he didn't knock people out. He had heavy hands. But he was not known for exciting fights. He was not known for his high impact, striking prowess. He was a grinding wrestler who would get wins by just keeping the other person down on the ground the entire time.
Yeah.
So
and to his credit, he's made the right moves for what he needs to develop in his skill set and how he needs to take it to the next level. So pairing up with Weidman, yeah, there's a few better moves he can make in his position.
Of course. I'm not crapping on his career choices. In fact, I'm congratulating him because I think he's really turned it around. Not that he, like I say, turn it around like he wasn't moving in the right direction. He was. It's just like his fighting style now matches his shit talking beforehand. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I still don't buy it because I know it was fake. Because if you watched him before that whole fiat, before the Conor McGregor thing, right? Before he started to put on airs to try and get attention towards his fights, you knew that he was a different person. And you could see it in long form when he did, the Rogan interview. He would have bouts of just being like a genuine human being and thoughtful, well spoken. And then, whenever talking about fighting or fights and given his things like, bringing up the Damian Maia fight, he gets into this false bravado, bullshit swagger. Like, stop that, man. Like, you don't have to. I like a lot of people like you for who you are and are going to like you for who you are. If you put in the work and beat people, regardless of your fighting style, people are going to tune in to watch you. I've been in I've been in multiple arguments. I'm not the biggest boxing fan, but I've been in multiple arguments in the past couple of weeks about Floyd Mayweather being a really good boxer by some idiot who doesn't know what he's talking about saying, oh, Floyd Mayweather sucks. He handpicked his opponents and he wasn't good. I'm like, first of all, no, he didn't. Not early in his career. And every boxer sort of handpicks
that's boxing.
I was like, look at Canelo Alvarez. I think Canelo Alvarez's first 18 opponents, like their combined record was something ridiculous, like 10 and 200. Like they were awful. But anyway, like what I'm saying is like Floyd Mayweather developed he had this defensive technique, but he's one of the best defensive boxers of all time. I don't give a shit who you put him in there with. Like you to not get caught. He was caught one time in his professional career with a big shot. Do you understand how rare that is in boxing, where literally the only thing you can do is punch someone? Like, in MMA, you can get wrestled and submitted and never take big punches because of who you're facing. But he's only facing people who are trying to punch him in the face. And
they can't do it.
And they can't do it. Right. And
no, it's ridiculous for anyone not to acknowledge how elite he is.
And
how crazy his career was.
And what I'm saying is, was he the most exciting boxer to watch? No, it was boring as hell, but he pumped it up and he made people want to watch him because he was unbeatable. That's part of why people tune in. If you're a boring fighter, the way to get people to tune in is A, have a character, which we've seen, and B, just win. Keep winning. Be dominant. And then people will tune in to see you lose. They're gonna that's you don't care. People tuning in to see you lose or see you win is the same amount of money. So it does not matter to you.
Yeah, it works. I got no problem with how Usman, carry going into this, how he's trying to elevate his fights. I mean, the UFC's it's made that the game. That's part of the promotion aspect. And yeah, there's a lot of fighters that can decide I don't want to be a part of that, but at the end of the day, if you're trying to maximize your earnings in the short time, even if you're Kamaru Usman, the short time that you're at the top of the hill, you could have the greatest UFC career ever, it's still not going to be that. I mean, look at Anderson Silva. he had an incredible reign. Still wasn't his whole career. Still saw how much of it now after the fact isn't at the top of that hill. If you want to maximize what you can make while you're at the top of the hill, you got to bring a little bit. You got to bring something to the game, and it's either going to be in the ring or outside the ring or both.
I don't know. I wouldn't. It's part of it is just because I know it's fake. That's why I can't stand it. Like it's just like I hate Kobe shtick. I hate it. Anyway, congrats to Kamaru.
It's wrestling. It's professional wrestling. It's
yeah, but at least in professional wrestling, like it's a fun storyline because there's no real consequences to it. You know what I mean? Like it's all drawn up, and they're good at it.
Oh, yeah.
Like
they actually get coached on. I mean,
Brock Lesnar, never once watching Brock Lesnar in the UFC did I think he was faking it. No. I always thought he was pissed off. I always thought he wanted to kill everyone across from him. I always thought he had some sort of vendetta. And you know what? Some of it might be real. Some of it might not be. In fact, I bet you most of it wasn't. Like that's how you know it works, is when people just buy into that character being a real thing.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, people coming from that skill set, or people coming from professional wrestling actually get trained in it. They actually get that skill set. We're kind of just watching professional athletes try and act and put on that show without any sort. It would be like watching an actor try and walk into a, UFC fight with only the training that they get in preparation for an acting role. Like it's.
Oh, you mean like CM Punk?
Yeah. It would be like Tom Cruise trying to actually compete in a mixed martial arts fight. Like it would. I know, but that's it. Like they're just not professional actors. So it comes across really cheesy and doesn't make sense.
So Usman gets a win. Congrats, man. I think incredible performance. You got to beat somebody who is actually ranked, like has a legitimate rank and isn't just beating one person to get in the ranking system and having like a split career in the UFC to be considered a great.
More competitive contenders down the road would be better for his career.
And part of it might not be his fault. Like if you're just in a weak era, there are some times where, when you're in your prime, the division's really weak. So you're a dominant champion over subpar competition. There's nothing you can do about that. You can't make people be better than they are. They can try to elevate their game to catch up to you, but it's like Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey's the best example of that. Was she the best fighter, like, at the time when she was fighting? Arguably. Yeah, I would say she probably was. But the thing is, if you look at her, if you take a step back and look at her fighting skill, was she good? Yes. Was she great? Nope.
I mean, and that eventually caught up to her later in her career. Like it took the division catching up and elevating, and maybe that will happen to Kamaru, or maybe he'll utilize his camp, utilize his work ethic, and stay ahead of the game, and be that dominant champ that he wants to be.
Yeah, you're gonna have to do a lot to dethrone GSP, in my opinion. Like
absolutely.
It's difficult. In fact, I think part of GSP's allure is the fact that he lost the title, got it back, and then defended it more. Like it's just something. Like Usman can do it.
The competition caught up, and then he brought himself back above it.
It's so crazy.
That says a lot.
All right, so before this fight, real quick before we move on, Horry Mazdal was ranked number 4 for some fucking reason. So who do you want to see him fight next? I think Vicente Luque could be a fun fight. Michael Chiesa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that'd be fun. Damian Maia, we've already seen that. He lost to him. Neil Magny. That'd be a good fight for Neil Magny to get up on, get some name recognition.
Mm-hmm.
Or, oh no, Tyron Woodley just got. Okay, so I heard over the weekend that Tyron Woodley officially, he's not on the roster anymore for the UFC, but he's still in the rankings on the UFC.com.
Interesting.
So I don't know.
You know what? Jorge Masvidal versus Jake Paul is what's going to happen next.
Okay, I mean, if you want to see a guy die. I mean, I don't think Masvidal is the best MMA fighter of all time, nor do I think he is good compared to his competition now, or great. Sorry, he's good. But compared to some jackass who can't throw jabs, yeah, I think he'd win. But yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing him. I think it'd be fun to watch him versus Tyron Woodley because it kind of it's not the what if because Tyron Woodley's changed a lot, but it's a fun fight.
It would be a good way to test where each of their levels are at this point.
And Li Jingliang would be fun too. All right, let's get to some of the more shocking things that have happened.
Do you mean the entire rest of the card?
Oh shit. Okay, so let's go in order. Let's keep going in order because there's a lot. There's a lot here. All right, so Zhang Weili defending her belt against Rose Namajunas gets a head kick. It wasn't even a switch, really. It
was a front roundhouse.
But it wasn't even
roundhouse kick.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, it wasn't even a what I was trying to say, question mark kick. You know, where
no, it wasn't. It was.
You look like you're going for a low kick, but
it looked like a more traditional, like Taekwondo or Tung Sudo, like lead roundhouse, where she brings up the chamber and then executes the round kick right to the face, and it just kind of glides right underneath Weili's guard because she dropped it thinking it was going to be a body.
She didn't drop it.
It looked like she pulled her guard down
back.
Or back, yeah.
Yeah. No, watch. That's what I'm saying, because if you watch it again, she slides her feet back and goes like this, you know, how like a matador, like sliding out of the way of a bull, you know, because she thinks a leg kick is coming. And she puts her face forward and like goes like this and takes it right on the chin. And like,
yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know what read she got that she thought a leg kick was coming.
But it was just
weird. A perfectly placed kick.
Right on the chin, dropped her, you know, her knees went, you know, knees before, or what's his name? Knees past toes guy.
Oh, I don't know his name. I've seen pictures of him.
Yeah.
I don't.
Like, that's what it looked like. One of his videos, just knees forward onto the mat, body went backward.
Yeah, and she was out.
She
like
took a good number of hammer fists, completely undefended.
No, they're called chops.
Okay.
Stephen A. Thompson calls them chops.
Well, she got chopped, was not defending herself in any form or fashion. Her brain was in a different universe.
Yeah, real quick we're going to continue talking about this, but yeah, after the main event, Stephen A. Thompson was like, yeah, or no, he tweeted it, so I'm just doing a voice, but whatever. He's like, yeah, you know, after the fourth chop, you know, that was enough to call it. You mean hammer fists? You dingling. Oh my God, he's such a joke. It's like, watch like 2 events earnestly. Watch 2 events and you will pick up enough lingo to sound semi-competent. You fucking dunce. All right.
He just doesn't care.
No, he doesn't give a shit. He just gets paid.
It comes through. It comes through when someone doesn't care.
Joke. All right. Zhang Weili, I thought she looked great. You know, she was hitting Rose. She was getting her. And I think, you know, if that fight goes longer and Rose starts to fade like she did in the thing is, though, Andrade really pushed the issue against Rose in their second fight and really gassed her out. And that's why she was able to like put it on her in the third. I don't know if she'd be able to do that or if Zhang was actually going to tire Rose out with just striking because, you know, I think Rose's cardio can hold up for that.
It would have been an interesting 5-round fight if it went the full 5 rounds.
Yeah, but I thought it was an incredible kick. She's the champ again. I think she looked great. She's bouncing light on her feet. Trevor Whitman again. He also coaches her. What a night for that guy. Also, so before the fight started, when she was walking out, I was like, what is she saying? Like, you could just see her mouthing something. Well, she was saying, I'm the best. And then I noticed it when she was before the fight, when Bruce Buffer was calling her name. She was like, I'm the best. I'm the best. And then, you know, after the fight, Pat Barry comes up to her and is like, who's the fucking best? You're the motherfucking best. He's like, who's the best? And she's like, I'm the best. And then Joe Rogan
goes like a clinic in sports psychology, honestly.
Yeah.
That part, and then we were texting back and forth during the fight. You could just feel the energy in that building change when they were chanting USA?
Yeah,
But
it's
like
different.
in the 30 seconds right before that kick, you just felt like a boost of energy. Like I was texting during it. You feel that energy go through Rose when she was in there.
It's weird, man. It's like it's not very. The U.S. hasn't been very patriotic during fights because there's so much. People have their favorite fighters.
Mm-hmm.
It's if you don't like Usman, it doesn't matter if he's fighting from the U.S. You're gonna boo him or whatever, which they did in Florida. Um, but like from other countries, when a Brazilian's fighting in the U.S. or anywhere, like the Brazilians go nuts. And I use Brazil as an example, one, because there's tons of Brazilian MMA fighters in the UFC, but two, because the population of Brazil is similar to the U.S., right? Over 300 million people. So it's a very close allegory as far as like population. It's just like a different culture. They just root for their own so much more. And it's bananas that the US like doesn't do that anymore when it comes to like international fights. But on this one, it felt like it. They were multiple times in the night you heard like chants of like USA, which is unusual.
But also, you know, it's different in Las Vegas versus Jacksonville, Florida, in terms of venue.
Yeah,
Like
a little bit.
you're in Las Vegas, you got some very expensive seats. The people going like it's not that they're not patriotic, but you're going to have a more international crowd in Vegas versus Jacksonville, Florida, where
Would you say fancy twats?
yes, fancy twats. Not a terrible way to describe it, but yeah, I mean you're legitimately getting a hometown crowd there, and I also think there's something to be said in the comparison of Brazilian fighters versus you know Whaley
Any
going in there. Yeah, anybody. There was a little bit of that, Cold War energy.
Yeah.
Like there's something to something that pumps people up about the competition between great powers of the time, and that's
So
why Miracle is such an awesome movie. That's why
it's
those
an
types of
amazing
yeah,
movie.
that's why the Olympics pumps people up. But like when you actually bring that type of like, you know, when people get into that concept and people get into that energy, I don't think people think of the United States and Brazil as enemies in any form of
Oh.
fashion. But
So what's crazy to me is like even after the fight when Rose is like, about the comments beforehand, I wasn't saying anything about Wiley. She's like, I have nothing but love for like everybody. She's like, I love all
yeah,
cultures. I love all people. She's like, it's just talking about me and my past, because her grandfather, is she Latvian? Oh, crud, or
Lithuania.
Lithuanian. Lithuanian.
Yeah,
Right. So she's from like her family's from Lithuania, and like her grandfather was a part of Lithuania when it was under like the Soviet Union. Anyway,
yeah,
so after the fight, I was just scrolling through like seeing what people are saying, and like people are still shitting on Rose for what she said, and like she's like,
that's stupid. Yeah.
and people are saying like, oh well, she knew what she was doing. You're making assumptions about what someone is feeling based off of some relatively ineffectual comments they have made, basically saying communism is bad. And Rose brought it up best. She was like, because she was like, when you're fighting different people, it brings up different things in you. She's coming from a communist led uh, regime, like a communist led country. And because of that, it reminded her of her past. And that's what she latched onto. And that's what she decided she was going to use as like fuel and motivation. And she said it
Yeah.
one time. And then now all of a sudden she's racist. Like that's the
Also,
predominantly like the prevailing
let,
comment I see.
let's talk about The Last Dance. Jordan would use anything, the slightest ounce of disrespect from someone to make it
Yeah.
personal for him. Yeah. And people, even watching back, that's one of the things that people love most to talk about from that series was just the crazy mindset that he can put himself in.
His competitive attitude, nature.
Yeah. So how
Yeah.
is this any different? She's looking for something to help drive her to the next level in the ring. That's no different whatsoever.
Dude, she has said nothing wrong about Zhang, and then everybody's defending Zhang, saying like, "Oh, she doesn't represent the Communist Party." She never said she did.
Yeah.
And then here's some facts for you people. We talked about this last week. Does China have a government-sponsored doping program? Do they take their children away from their families to go be a part of sports programs? Yes, they do. Yes, they fucking do. Right? And if you were to criticize those because you were fighting a Chinese fighter, does that mean you're racist and you hate that other fighter? Absolutely not. But why would I bring it up? Why would I bring it up if I'm fighting a Canadian? If I'm fighting GSP, I'm not mentioning anything about the Cold War. It doesn't mean shit to me. I'm not going to mention anything like that. I might say it's really funny. He talks like a French person, but he's from Canada. Ha ha ha. Like, oh, he's in the Marvel movies. He's not a good actor. I think he's a fine actor, by the way. Like you can bring up all those things, and you can talk about when people are fighting Tyron Woodley, they'd be like, oh, he's got one foot in it, one out the door. Like I'm in this all the way. I live, breathe, eat, sleep, fighting. This is what I do. When you're fighting Colby, you mention a bunch of stupid shit about Trump. How come you don't say that all the time? How come when you're fighting, how come when you fought, Wonderboy Thompson, you didn't bring Trump up? Maybe it's because it wasn't on your mind, because he doesn't have any association with that. But this person is from a country where they don't do things by the book. They don't do things on the up and up or what we consider fair play. I'm not one of those people, but they have a history of doing things like that. And then that's just in the sports world. Like they have a more sinister side to all that as well. And Rose simply said, like the long and short of what Rose said was communism is bad. Let's just put it that way.
Which has absolutely nothing to do with anyone's race on the face of the earth.
No, it's an ideology.
Which is what ultimately I think the internet, for the most part, tried to turn it into. Yeah, socioeconomic idea. Like there's areas where it crosses paths, and you can argue all day about the difference between Marxism, communism, socialism, Chinese, philosophy on communism, even the different schools of thought of the different leaders of China. But ultimately, it comes down to why? Why are we even talking about it? Why is it an issue? And
it's not.
It's not. But there is truth to the Chinese Communist Party wanting to outwardly change the dynamic. And not to get conspiratorial on here, but the internet isn't real. Like ultimately, how much of what you're seeing on the internet is made up of real people and real intent and real comments? It's almost impossible to know. There is something legitimate to the possibility and the probability of the backlash against Rose essentially being manufactured.
Oh, that's true.
And that's part of what I wanted to bring in terms of analysis, because this is what China does in countries all around Asia. And we don't think about it as much here because we are very Russia focused in terms of our media for Russia's influence operations on the internet. But China goes through enormous influence operations through the internet throughout Asia whenever they're trying to push essentially their political philosophy, their influence into countries, into areas. So when they have a influential fighter on the main stage of sports in the United States, the entirety of Chinese, both nationalized and decentralized cyber capabilities are going to back her up in every possible way. So how much of it is real and how much of it is manufactured? I think that's part of what people should also kind of take with a giant grain of salt. How many people actually in this country care versus how much of it is just on the internet?
Yeah, and a lot of that is also people who are loud online, people who want to comment about it, and they have no
they have no bearing. They have no actual critical thought on the subject. They haven't thought about it past the 2 seconds that they're going to spend typing it out, if they're even a real person.
Yeah, they have initial disgust based off of someone criticizing someone else's culture. And then without thinking about what they're actually criticizing or what they actually said, breaking it down intellectually or coming up with some sort of, antithesis or argument to what they said, you just strike it down as they must hate the other person and they're racist. Take a step back, think about what they said, why they said it, and then instead of making judgments on what they said, not making judgments on what they said, making judgments on what you think they meant by what they said, why don't you take what they said and look at their actions and see if they're in contradiction with what you're projecting onto that person. Because if this person donates their time, is generally kind, and is loving to everybody around, and shows no history of doing anything negative, right? Those people do exist, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, and they make a comment saying communism is bad because they're fighting a person who comes from a predominantly run communist country. Your first thing shouldn't be, oh, that person's racist. The first thing that you should say is like, okay, why is she bringing that up now? If you really want to get into it, and then be like, oh, she's fighting a person from there. Okay. And then ask her, like, do you have anything against Wiley? Ask her. And then when she says, no, I do not. And then after the fight says, no, I do not. Then
that should theoretically be the end of it.
Yeah. Because she has done nothing in her past to show any sort of animosity towards anybody. Why would all of a sudden she's starting to just show hate towards another human being?
I mean, and she didn't even necessarily show hate towards Wiley at any point. And she made
That's
that
what
clear.
I'm saying.
She made that clear even before the fight.
That's what I'm saying.
It wasn't just like she was mean mugging her all the way up until, after she beat her. No, she made that clear in the run up to the fight.
Yeah, and here's something going forward. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, and it's not like she's alone in this. Her thought process makes perfect sense given the environment that she grew up in and her family's history. You look at the same way with Cuban fighters that are refugees from Cuba. Same way with people that come from Venezuela. Same way the people that end up in the United States as refugees from those types of environments that their families had very bad experiences under either communist or socialist regimes that did, horrible authoritarian things to their own people. Yeah, their family is going to grow up and feel a certain way about it.
Yeah, it's almost like they're not going to like it.
And if you've never had that experience, or your family hasn't had that experience, learn a little bit more about it. Have a little bit more of an open mind to people who grow up in completely different environments and experiences than you.
I hate white people. All right. I really do. No, so Rose looked incredible. I think next for her, I would rather have her fight someone else. I would rather have her fight Joanna again than Wiley. I'm not opposed to Zhang getting an immediate rematch.
So why not? I was actually curious on what your thought process was going to be on this.
So I'm not opposed to the Wiley rematch, but because Joanna has been sitting out, right, and she's got the 2 losses to her already, and a lot of people think Joanna beat Wiley the last time. I think there's a.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but did Wiley get the belt from Joanna or from Andrade?
No. She knocked Andrade out.
That's right.
Right? Andrade beat Rose, who beat Joanna. But right. Joanna beat
so Wiley only
Andrade.
Had one title defense before Rose and got knocked out. And
her second title defense, yes.
Yeah.
And in her first title defense, it's arguable. I actually did not give that fight to Wiley. I did not.
Yeah. So, and that's why I'm curious on if she should get an immediate rematch, because I've seen other UFC fighters in other divisions with that type of performance as a champ not get an immediate rematch.
The reason why is there's some people that are clamoring and climbing up the ranks and clamoring for a title shot, maybe, that I could see getting one eventually, like Mackenzie Dern. I mean, if you guys want to see her, pretty face get busted up, then throw her in there with Rose or throw her in there with Joanna. Let's do it.
I was gonna say, do Mackenzie Dern and Wiley and have Joanna and Rose.
That's fine. And then Yan Xiaonan, she's ranked number 3, so she's another fighter that's up there. Also Carla. So I think Carla's fighting.
I guess why I brought it up was, in almost any other situation or any other division, we wouldn't be talking about the champ getting an immediate rematch off of that performance with that short of a time as champ. And that's why, I wouldn't be mad at it, but I feel like there's other fights to be had, and I'd like to see her come back and have a win after that knockout before coming right back into it.
Yeah, I wouldn't be mad at that either. Yeah. So Carla Esparza is on a four fight win streak. Arguably, she shouldn't have won some of those split decisions, but whatever. She's on a 4-fight win streak, so I think she's got a fight lined up though, and I don't remember against who. But yeah, so I wouldn't mind seeing Rose versus Joanna again, because I do think that the second fight was closer. And it's a fun storyline. And then Zhang can fight, Carla or one of these other contenders, and we'll see how that goes. And then, then the winners of those fights fight for the title again. So,
yeah,
I wouldn't mind seeing that. All right, I mean it was great while it lasted. It was fun to watch, and I'm excited for Rose because she's crying because she's so happy because she won again, and she looks like she's actually ready to be a champion this time and not crumble under the pressure. So
absolutely.
That's awesome.
And yeah, I think it would be. Yeah, I'm happy with however they end up making the matchups, but that was just one of the most incredible knockouts I've ever seen.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit Holly Holm, Ronda Rousey-esque without the long 3-round buildup.
Yeah, on a night of some incredible performances and events that happened. Speaking of.
Yes, so Valentina Shevchenko just...
Anything you can do, I can do better.
Dude, she did everything she wanted.
Yeah.
So the talk was Jessica, so she defeated Jessica Andrade via TKO. She had her in the crucifix in the second round. So Andrade, the big talk was, oh, she's strong. Oh, she comes in there with big swinging punches, and oh, she's going to grapple her and bring her down. And you and I both said, Valentina's no joke when it comes to grappling. She's a great grappler. She's a great
aspect of her game.
She's extremely strong. She's has crisp striking. She has one of the highest MMA fight IQs in all of MMA. She's just an incredible fighter all around. And dude, she set the she tied the record for most takedowns in a flyweight fight in 2 rounds. She's the record is I think 7 takedowns, and she did that in 2 rounds,
which is incredible. There was one moment, and I can't remember if it was near the end of the first or at the beginning of the second round, but when Andrade had her against the fence,
that was the second round,
and she was trying to slam her. So she was trying to get up underneath her and slam her the way that she has with many other fighters before.
Yep.
And you can hear it in the broadcast booth. They're talking about it oh, she's going to go for it, and she gets about 3 attempts in, and just Valentina shuts it down so completely that she gives up on it.
Yeah.
And you just felt oh, this fight's over right at that moment.
Not that it wasn't over in the first round.
Not that she didn't dominate the first round, but essentially the one thing Jessica kind of had up her sleeve that she could have changed the direction of the fight with, Valentina just absolutely was no, you can't do this to me. And then took it back over, put her on the ground, and ended it.
The only path to victory I saw for Andrade was one big shot. Hitting her with a really big, looping right hand or something, because nothing else is going to beat Shevchenko. She's not going to beat her in a long, drawn-out fight.
She's eating shots from Amanda Nunes. And
yeah.
I don't know that even if Jessica Andrade landed a big shot, if it would have.
She spent 40 minutes. On any
given night, it could happen, but I don't think that's going to happen.
She has spent 40 minutes in the cage with Amanda Nunes and arguably won more of those minutes. Yeah.
Definitely won 20 minutes. Might have won more than 20 minutes of those minutes.
Yeah. So I actually gave her that second fight, a lot of that, there was talk about that. I'm surprised they didn't bring it up on the broadcast. A lot of people feel that she won that second fight, me included. You could tell, if you guys don't remember, go back and just look up a reaction. So go back and watch Amanda Nunes versus Valentina 2, Nunes versus Shevchenko 2. Look at Nunes's reaction after the fight is over, when they call her name at the split decision. She did not have the reaction of a person who just confidently won a fight. She had the reaction of a person who wins the lottery, or someone who gets selected to come down on Price is Right. I'm not
Ooh,
joking.
thank God.
It was it wasn't even thank God. She like puts her hands up like she was selected to be the next contestant. I'm not joking. Go back and watch it. She's like, yeah, it's me, because she had no idea. She didn't feel like she did enough to win that fight, and Valentina was confident in it. And I know that doesn't mean everything, but she won that fight, and I think they need a rematch. But Valentina said it's gonna happen when it happens. Like, I'm not gonna force it. I'm not gonna call her out. I'll let her career go on however she wants, and when she wants to come back and fight me, then we can. So, as of right now, there ain't a whole lot at flyweight for her. Got Lauren Murphy maybe. Yeesh.
Yeah.
It gets real. Oh boy, she could fight her sister. I mean, her sister's ranked 12, and she's like a journeyman fighter. No, she's not a journeyman fighter. She's a good strawweight. I'm sorry, flyweight. She's a good flyweight. But I think it would be fun if they fought each other. I think that'd be a cool story.
Yeah, either that or the Nunes fight. I think, because I don't know how much longer Amanda has in the UFC. I feel like
I don't know either.
I feel like she's edging close to the end of her career. So if we were, I'd probably want that to be your next fight.
Well, so Nunes is fighting Juliana Pena.
So yeah, I think that should be Valentina's next fight. I don't think there's any rush of any other contenders in that division to get in there.
Lauren Murphy, I think, has made enough of a case for her title. I think a title shot for her. She's worked very hard to get where she's
But when
at.
is the next Nunes fight?
Oh no.
It's after July, because I don't see it before July.
Like Laura Murphy's come from she was, survived drug addiction and come back, and she's worked really hard to get where she's at, and she's got a fun story.
I'm not saying she shouldn't get the fight, but
no, I mean, I think she should get the money, go up there and get your ass kicked by Shevchenko, and then
no shame in that.
No, everybody else does.
Yeah.
It's just I think it's a rite of passage to be a flyweight, female flyweight in the UFC. It's just you work real hard, and then you get your ass beat by Valentina, and then you go back to working real hard again. That's just how it goes.
Fight for second place.
All right, good job, Valentina. It was an awesome fight. Dominant performance. Just did whatever she wanted, flipping her around, grabbing her, dude, and she looked so good on the feet. Real quick, after the fight, they asked her, was this your game plan coming in? And she's like, I train for everything. She's like, I train, if I expect a fighter to do something, I'm training for that, but I'm also training for everything else at all the time. So if she's going against a really wrestle heavy opponent, she's going to wrestle a lot to prepare for it. Smart. And that's why I think, but she says it this way. She goes, I don't make the decision. I let my body decide, and then it just happens, how I'm going to go for a finish and find out what the best way to win is. I think what's happening is she's training to beat a specific opponent, and she's constantly grappling, right? She's constantly grappling for this Jessica Andrade fight, and she gets in there, and she's practiced grappling so much that she's awesome at it and just out-grapples her. About Juliana Pena, submitted her. You remember she was supposed to get submitted by her. She submitted her. She goes in there against strikers and Holly Holm and just outstrikes her. Didn't take her down a single time. That's what I'm saying. It's I think she's just training so hard.
Neo from the Matrix. She just downloads their fight plan before the fight.
And then does it back to him.
Yeah. Better.
And I like how after the fight, she said something the most ruthless and hilarious thing. She's like, what
did Rogan get her to say?
Come at me.
Oh yeah.
But no, she said, oh yeah, if you're looking for weaknesses, don't waste your time. There are none.
I mean,
and then
I said, anything you can do, I can do better.
Oh yeah, that old commercial. That'd be super cool. But
Yeah.
and the other thing, post fight, one of the interviews she was mentioning, she said, "Oh, I didn't want to say anything this week when she said that a man that Jessica was gonna like out grapple me and she's strong and stuff." And she's like, "No, let her think that. Let her think that. That'll be good because then she'll be real surprised in there." They're like, "No, let her think that." And she's like, "I don't want to make her think about anything else. I'll let her think she's a strong one." Oh my God, it's
Yeah.
ruthless. She's so good.
That was nuts.
Okay, let's talk about one of the saddest moments in my UFC watching experience. Not
Yep.
the saddest, but it's up there. And then one of they're both together, but
I'd
so
say back to back, two of the craziest TKOs that I've ever seen in
especially
back
back
to
to
back
back
fashion. Yeah.
and because of the storyline. All right, so Uriah Hall beats Chris Weidman via TKO doctor stoppage. Right, all right, it's TKO because Chris Weidman snapped his tibia fibia. Right? Almost exactly how Anderson Silva snapped his leg when Chris Weidman checked that kick.
Yep.
So there have been 3 leg breaks in UFC history, and Chris Weidman has been a part of 2 of them. The chances of
Yep.
that happening are tiny. Oh, also Uriah Hall became the let's go back real quick. Why didn't I bring up my notes? Rose Namajunas became the first female fighter to ever lose her title and then regain it. I thought that was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So Uriah Hall is the first fighter in UFC history to ever win a fight without throwing a single punch, a single strike.
Yeah.
It's never happened before. So
and it has now. 17 seconds.
yes, he gets a 17-second win due to an injury. It's really bad, man. I don't like. I've seen it a couple times, and it's just my initial reaction was, "Oh my God," and then it was, I didn't feel sick. I was really upset.
Oh yeah. I mean, like, it's for every reason you could possibly imagine in terms of watching a UFC fight, it's the worst way it could end. Uriah Hall and Chris Weidman both put weeks and weeks and weeks of preparation to fight each other, get in absolutely incredible condition. I thought this was going to be an amazing fight. Sure, they both did. And it ends essentially without either of them throwing a punch and just one kick thrown and checked in the most gruesome fashion you can possibly imagine. A fighter possibly having his career ended because of it, given how long Weidman's been in the game. And Uriah Hall has absolutely no satisfaction whatsoever over the win. Not only because it ended by doctor stoppage, but he didn't do anything. So it's like, you know, he doesn't walk away from, his immediate reaction was, traditional martial arts reaction of, all right, go kneel down in the corner, give the other person their privacy, just waited for everything to pass by, and then, was as gracious as you could possibly be in that situation in terms of the post-fight interview. But I mean, you could tell I I obviously felt bad for Weidman. I felt bad for Hall too. It's like, that's,
Oh, I feel bad for both of them.
yeah,
I was pissed because like I was pissed off because like how the fuck does that happen?
I know.
Like when it happened to Anderson Silva, it's one thing because he was the champ, right? And he was coming back, and it was also but there had been a fight before that, or like sorry,
Mhm.
there had been fighting, right? They had
Yeah,
fought an entire
it
first
wasn't the
round.
first strike thrown, and it's not like one of them was winning or in this case, no one was winning the fight.
No,
Yeah.
nothing happened. Weidman goes out there, throws an awesome leg kick, and like I heard it and how loud it was, and I'm like, damn, that was a hard leg kick. No, that noise was his leg breaking.
Yep.
Fuck. Dude, it didn't gross me out. Like it just made me so angry. Like how the fuck does this happen? Like
Yeah.
how does this happen? Because this guy,
Also, what does it do for Uriah Hall's ranking and career now?
he's
Because
gonna have to
ultimately
fight someone else,
we
right?
saw,
Like right now.
unfortunately, we saw nothing from
No. And like he's ranked number 9. Like
Yeah,
this
like
is the fight.
this could have propelled him up into 1 or 2 fights away from the championship, and it still might, but you know,
You got Kelvin Gastelum ranked number 8 and Uriah Hall's number 9. Those two could fight each other again. That's a cool story.
Yeah, I'd watch that.
He could fight Jack Hermanson. Good fight. I would love to see him against Darren Till.
Same.
And then Marvin Vettori fighting Israel Adesanya. There's a good reason for it. We can go over that later, but
I get it. Yeah.
Just scheduling.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, Uriah Hall. I feel bad for Uriah Hall because this does nothing for him, but I have less. It's not sympathy. I do have sympathy for Uriah Hall because this sucks. Like, especially for a good guy like that to have this happen, and like, there's no positive that comes out of this. Like, none, other than people find out, hey, you're a really nice person if they didn't already know. And then Chris Weidman, but it's so much worse for Chris Weidman.
Oh yeah. I mean, this might be his career, legitimately, like that.
He's and he's past. He's in his late 30s now.
Yeah.
I think he's 36. He could be 34, mid 30s. Let's call it that. So Chris Weidman's in his mid 30s, and he kind of had the fall from grace with that stupid spinning back kick, spinning heel kick to Luke Rockhold and getting taken down in a fight.
He's 36. Yeah,
he could have won. I was right the first time. But yeah, so he's won. He's been winning almost every fight that he's fought the last couple of times. Obviously not against Jan. I think he getting knocked out by him going up to light heavyweight. That wasn't a great. Oh no, it wasn't Jan. That was Reyes. Sorry, Dominic Reyes. Jan knocked out Luke Rockhold.
But still, like,
he was winning that fight against. He's been winning against the fight against Jacare. He won that. He was winning that fight until he got caught. Like, he was going to win that fight against Yoel Romero. He was dominating that fight. He was going to win that fight.
It looked like there was a chance for him to make a comeback here. It looked like there was a pathway for him back to a championship opportunity, a legitimate one, and it would have been really interesting to see him versus Izzy. Like that would have been a rough fight for Izzy, depending on how Chris Weidman showed up there.
It's just like, how the fuck does this happen?
I know.
And then, okay, so all condolences to Chris Weidman and his family. Yep. Like, I'm just, I hope he heals up fast, and I hope he gets well soon. I really do. He's not gonna fucking hear this, but I don't care. Like, I really do. Like, I feel so bad, and I felt more angry. He put out a picture this morning, smiling in the hospital bed. So, he had surgery already. Hopefully everything goes well. Part of the reason why this was upsetting was the fight beforehand.
So this seemed like it was going to be a rough card.
Light heavyweight.
In the first 2 fights.
Anthony Smith fights Jimmy Croot. And Jimmy Croot looks good. Okay. Mm-hmm. Anthony Smith has been, but Anthony Smith looked great too. He's landing these excellent jabs.
Yeah. It was going to be an interesting fight of whose game plan was going to take over first.
Yeah, Croot's leg kicks. Croot was kicking Smith's leg out from under him, and I suspected, because that happened to Smith before against Rakic. Yeah. I suspected that in the second and third round, Smith wasn't going to be able to take those anymore, and the fight was going to go to Croot. And on the other side, Smith was landing these very stiff jabs.
Yep.
To Croot's
absolute piston
nose.
And not just glancing him with it, like solid, knocking his head back,
right?
Like really putting jabs in his face.
Yeah, and he was landing great shots. There's decent striking. So it's about 3 minutes and 40 seconds into the first round, and Croot is pushing Anthony back against the cage. Smith throws a short. It happened twice. The broadcasters are wrong. So Smith throws a leg kick in really close quarters and lands on Croot's left leg, right? So he throws a right leg kick and hits his left leg. Then they go back out in open space, and Smith throws a kick, and it lands right behind the knee.
Yep.
To which Croot takes a step back, and his foot goes like this. Like, it just goes dead.
Like, his foot and his knee, basically. Everything below his knee just kind of crumbled underneath him.
Like, it looked, when he was trying to walk, it almost looked, how when your foot falls asleep, and your foot's there, but you can't, like, feel or move it, so you're just putting it down.
It looked like something out of a Jackie Chan movie where
Yeah.
someone hit a pressure point and then just their arm went jelly.
So
Legitimate, like that's what it looked like. It looked like it wasn't real.
I was gonna say there's I forget what movie that is or what. Oh, that three oh my god. The Karate Kid. The series, Cobra Kai. The last season that happens.
Yes, the pressure points.
Yeah, he hits him in the pressure points and gets his arms dead. Like that's what I'm saying. That's what it looked like.
Yeah.
So there. Okay, so anyway, Croot's leg goes dead, but he jumps in for a takedown and takes Smith down. Smith goes down, and Croot is pounding on him. Not fight-ending shots, but if one of them lands,
there was some moments where I was like, oh, this could get really interesting. Like he had him in some rough positions, and Anthony Smith was you could see him mentally trying to figure out, how do I make sure that it looks like I'm fighting back on this? How do I
Right.
do enough so that they don't think that I'm not defending myself? So he's cerebrally trying to stay in the fight from all appearances sake, and do enough back to where it doesn't get stopped.
And if you didn't watch it on the broadcast, go back and watch it again. There are points when he's in that grappling situation. You can see Croot's foot cave under, and it's like it's on the canvas, like underneath, like he can't push off of it sometimes. So he goes back to his corner, sits on the stool, it collapses on the stool. Like he can't put weight on it, but then he can, and then he can't, and then he can. He stands up for the start of the second round. The doctor says, stands like 10 feet in front of him or 12 feet in front of him and is like, hey, walk to me. Croot takes 4 steps towards him, and he's like, we're good. Let's go. Takes 3 steps back and then stumbles. No, he didn't even fall, though. He just stumbled, and then the doctor was like, no. And Croot, dude, I feel so bad.
And then he walks over and, he punches one of the cords. He punches one of the cords, and as he goes to throw that punch, his leg just crumbles underneath, and he goes down onto one knee.
But then he went and picked up Anthony Smith.
It seemed like what was happening in terms of when he could move, if he got the knee to lock fully out, then he could put weight onto it. Essentially, like his leg would, I don't think he was actually muscularly engaging it, but I think if he just got the joints aligned to where it locked out, then it wouldn't crumble. But the moment there was any bend to it whatsoever, then everything just kind of was jelly. At least from appearances when I was watching it.
I feel bad for him because like this happened to Michael Chandler versus Brent Primus back in Bellator. He got kicked in the leg and his foot went dead, and like everybody was like, "Oh, he broke his foot, or he's injured," but he wasn't.
ACL or something.
Yeah, but he wasn't. His foot came back and he was walking after the fight. He was fine. It's one of those things, and I understand it's a good stoppage because technically your movement is impaired, right? So if your hand is broken and you say it's broken, I think they have to stop the fight. Right. No, because right. Okay. Yeah. So if you say your hand is broken, they have to stop the fight. Because all the times in history when people have broken their hands or broken their arm or something, they just keep it to themselves and they don't say anything till after the fight's over.
Or actually, Uriah Hall broke his toe during a fight. It was like I think the bone was almost sticking out of his toe. Yeah.
Uriah Faber broke both of his hands in a fight and had to use only his elbows. John Jones snapped his toe and the bone was sticking out. But yeah, so if you tell the doctor, then they have to stop the fight. And if you show the doctor that you can't walk, then that's the end of it.
Oh yeah.
All right, so that was the main card.
Mm-hmm.
The prelims were pretty baller too. Randy Brown knocking out Alex Oliveira with a big right hand, which is crazy.
Submission.
He knocked him down. He knocked him down with the right hand, and then he got him with a submission, just one arm, and then he grabbed the shoulder of Oliveira. You're right.
Yeah, it was like a standing rear naked choke with one arm, which he eventually brought down and was able to sink in and get it.
I thought Oliveira rushed it. I think you said that to me as well.
Yeah, he took within I think the first minute of the fight, he took essentially a full, foot right to the nuts. And
Yes.
I think he only took like 30 seconds. It was barely a break. He basically just waved it off and said, let's keep going. But you clearly see the discomfort in it and him kind of reaching out to adjust his cup, I think twice after that. Like
Yeah.
it clearly had not settled and was still affecting him. And yeah.
That's why, like, there should just be a point deduction immediately. We talked about that already. I'm wholeheartedly in agreement with you going forward. It's immediate point deduction. I don't give a shit anymore. Like, I don't care. I don't care about intent or anything else. You kick the dude in the nuts, point.
I also wouldn't mind like a mandatory minute or a mandatory minimum for the rest point.
Yeah.
Because I think, adrenaline pumping fighter maybe might not feel the effect of it immediately and just want to move forward and go, now I'm fine. And then all of a sudden it hits them and they can't take that rest period.
So I agree with you only if they implement the immediate point deduction.
Yes.
Because if they don't, then the fighter knows that's a strategy. If I haven't used my foul yet, if I'll just throw some wild kicks, maybe I'll hit him in the nuts or I'll accidentally poke him in the eye.
Yeah, no,
Maybe
it should still be an immediate point deduction, but I also think I would favor a minimum rest period. Essentially like the minute in between the rounds. You get a mandatory minimum minute and then up to
up
what
to
is it,
5.
4? Yeah, up to
5.
5.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd be okay with that.
Because if he had that full minute, I think he would have realized that it hurt him more than he initially thought.
Yeah, because it's not immediate. When you get kicked in the nuts, it's not immediate. Like you get kicked there and you know it. It's like that. I don't know if you do this, but like if something hits you or brushes up against you, you get that initial thing like ow, but it didn't really hurt. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Oh yeah, absolutely.
yeah. But when you get hit in the nuts, like that initial thing is ow, and then you realize, oh shit, this is gonna hurt, and then it comes, and then it's just terrible, agonizing pain.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, I agree with you. I think that would be a good addition to
But
good
still,
addition.
excellent performance by Randy Brown. Like
Yeah, he looked great.
yeah,
He's a lanky guy. He looks crazy for the welterweight
yeah.
division, being
He
6'3".
almost looked like he was in a different division than Oliveira when he was behind him and choking him. It was like, whew.
Yeah, well, Oliveira used to fight at lightweight, and I don't know. I wouldn't mind him taking a step back in competition instead of fighting, ranked opponents. And I don't
Yeah.
know. Actually, no, Randy Brown's not ranked anymore. No, he's not. Dude, Robbie Lawler's still ranked. Sweet. Anyway,
All right.
so welterweight, we had Dwight Grant versus Stefan Sokolic. I get that there was some controversy here because I swear it's the commentary. The commentary. Turn off the commentary.
Yep.
When you watch this fight, because they're like, "Oh, Stefan's going for the takedown. Oh, Stefan's doing this." Watch the first 2 rounds. I think Dwight won them. I think Dwight won the first round just because Stefan gets a takedown with in the last minute and doesn't really do much with it. Doesn't give him the win, or doesn't
And
win that
also,
round.
there were a lot of attempts that Grant stuffed. So Stefan only got 3 out of his 7 attempts versus Grant's 1 out of his 1 attempt. So it wasn't like Stefan was tossing him around the ring. It
No,
just
and
it just looks more. I mean, it can be perceived as more dominant when someone is going for takedowns or going for that control.
and a lot was made about Grant missing his shots, like missing his strikes, but he was landing too. So like I've said this before, but so if you and I are fighting,
Mm-hmm.
right, and I throw one jab and I land that jab, okay, and then you throw 20 jabs but only land one, and they're both equal in power, in position, and everything. Everything else is equal throughout the fight, right? And then we just end the round right there, right? Let's just end the round. You would win that round because you did more offensively.
Yeah.
Because you and I both tied on damage, right? There's no reason I should win just because I hit a higher percentage. Who the hell cares? If
Yeah.
you land 30 shots out of your
If
400 and I land 1 of 1, I landed 100% of my shots. It doesn't mean shit.
if you want more super boring heavyweight fights where only like 20 strikes are thrown in 3 rounds, then yeah, that sounds awesome. But that's not what I want to see in a fight either.
No. And
Yeah,
I think Grant did enough.
accuracy is cool, but yeah, at the end of the day,
I thought Grant did enough. I thought he looked okay. And
Yeah, and I think there was just some perception because Grant almost got choked out with a guillotine. Like the end of the fight was him defending against a guillotine for about 30 seconds on the ground. And
I would have.
I think that just flavored a little bit of the commentary and the feelings in the arena because it looked like he was about to lose and then ended up winning because of what he did in the first 2 rounds.
I would be okay with a draw because if you gave that a 10-8 because
Yes.
he was close to finishing the fight. I'm okay. I'm more than fine with that. But don't give me that Stefan won the first 2 rounds. He didn't. I didn't see it. Middleweight, we had Carl Roberson getting submitted by Brendan Allen. Great performance by Brendan Allen. I thought he looked, he looked fantastic. Great striking, and then they end up on the ground, and then Roberson rolls under to grab a leg of Brendan's,
Yep.
and Brendan
that was a
grabs his
mistake.
immediately. I think there were like 12 seconds left in the first round when that whole
when they started going
started.
yeah.
And then with 5 seconds left in the first round, Allen does an inverted. It wasn't a heel hook. It was something else. But anyway, but he puts enough pressure on Roberson's leg, and Roberson has to tap with 5 seconds left in the round. So Great performance by Brendan. Pat Sabatini, apparently he's the future of whatever, got a decision over Tristan Connolly. Dana Batgariel versus Kevin Natividad. Oh, that was the knockout. That was the big knockout that everybody thought was going to be knockout of the night.
I did not see the early prelims, so this is all you.
Yeah, so he knocked him out 50 seconds into the fight. I actually missed it. I walked down into my garage and I came back up and the fight was over. I'm like, son of a bitch. So like I had to rewind it. Vargas versus Zhu Rong. That was an all right fight. Vargas did win that decision. I didn't have a problem with it. Keeling versus Keeling or versus Jeff. Oh, Jeff Molina. That was that fight. Okay, so Orochi Lang is that guy's name. Orochi Lang fought Jeff Molina, and it was like Orochi Lang is his whole name, so he's landing like big shots in the first round and stuff. But then Molina kind of turned and the first 2 rounds were close, but I don't have a problem with the decision. Anyway, so Molina in the 3rd round, I think he landed like 75 strikes or something, or 80 strikes against Orochi Lang. And Orochi Lang only landed probably like 20 or something like that. But in the last 10 seconds, like after just getting battered the entire time, and the whole time the commentary is just like, oh, this guy doesn't move his face. And I'm doing that voice just because of what happens afterwards, because they were accurate. It's just immediately, like with 10 seconds left, Orochi Lang just like starts just throwing fucking bombs, and he catches Molina twice and almost puts him on his ass. Like you could see his eyes roll back as he falls against the cage, and he's lucky that Orochi Lang was so close because he was able to grab onto him. Because like, given the right scenario, like that could have ended. And dude, I'm excited to see that guy fight more. Both those guys, like Orochi Lang hits hard, man. It's fun to watch.
I gotta go back and watch that one.
Liang Na versus Ariane Carnelossi. This is the fight. Carnelossi, she won by TKO because Na gassed out, and then she just couldn't do anything on the ground. I thought it was an early stoppage, but whatever. It wasn't that bad of a stoppage. I think it was fine. But Ariane needs to be drug tested again. I'm not one of those people. And again, I'm not saying this to demonize everyone who's on drugs, because everyone is. I don't give a shit. But if you're gonna pretend like you're
let's
not
just
on
stop drug testing everybody. How about that?
Yes, I'm okay with that. But if you're gonna pretend that you're not on drugs and that you're clean, maybe you shouldn't have bowling ball shoulders.
Just triple D, 3 delts. Whew.
Dude, her shoulders were bigger than mine. And like, I know I'm not the biggest dude on the planet. I get that. But I am a human male who outweighs her by 60 pounds. And I do my fair share of lifting. Like, I'm not here to say like, oh, she how dare she have bigger shoulders than me. It doesn't bother me. What I'm saying is, with how puffy they were and how big her muscles are, nah. No.
Yeah, and it's not like you don't have a background in bodybuilding or anything, or to where it would make sense for you to have large engorged delts.
Or experience with like how muscles are supposed to look naturally versus when people are on stuff.
Yeah. No, looking at the pictures now. Ooh,
Told you.
man, what I would give for her shoulders. Jeez.
Dude, no, she's and like they didn't mention it until like the very end. Like Joe Rogan was like, look at her physique. And then DC is like, yeah, she's stacked. Like, I like how they can't mention it on the broadcast, but you know exactly what they're thinking. Like, how the fuck did she get past drug testing?
Same
like,
way everyone does.
It's like they must have hooked up with Yoel Romero's team. Anyway, one more thing that happened over the weekend. That was it. I thought UFC 261 was a blast. I really do. Main card was fantastic. I think they could have got rid of that headliner, and anybody saying that Usman is a draw can suck it, because he's not. Why? Generally speaking, they don't make cards like this. They make these cards for two reasons. One, big events. Like the Super Bowl's happening, so they got to get a lot of eyeballs on the UFC, and the way to do that is to load it with title fights. Two, the 4th of July card. They have a big event in Vegas, and it tends to be a really big deal. A lot of people are there. International Fight Week. It's a big thing. They'll have like a big blowout. That's when they had UFC 200. Okay? Again, lots of title fights. People want to see that stuff. And then the last reason they'll do this is when they don't have a confidence that any of these title fights can draw on their own. Do you know what they'll do when they put Conor McGregor on the main event? They'll load a bunch of like not no names, but people who can't draw on that card because they know they can get away with it. Like they don't need to put 4 other title fights on a Conor McGregor card for it to sell. It's going to sell anyway. That's how you know they're confident in a draw. As much shit as John Jones has gotten, I think John Jones is enough of a draw on his own that he can draw like 1 million pay-per-views at this point on his own. He doesn't need help from other title fights. Usman, on the other hand, does not have that.
No, he's not as much of a household name yet, and he's not big outside the sport the way John Jones is. I think he's moving in that direction, but
another 3 years of dominance, and I think he'll be
and a couple more
very popular
like
fighter.
Last night. And
yeah. I think he needs, like I said, 3 more years of dominance, and I'll start getting on the Kamaru Usman is the greatest of all time, the greatest welterweight of all time train, which is possible because there's a lot of people in that division who I don't see beating him anytime soon. And I don't know of any super, like, really young contenders that are, like, standouts for me right now. All right, so PFL, the 2021 season started off. I would like to cover these more just because I feel like they have a really cool format. It's a really cool idea. One of the things I noticed is their lighting is just off. I've mentioned that before. It's a little bit darker than it should be. It's something that just takes me out of the fight. Like I can notice it. When I watch a UFC, I'm not thinking about the lighting. When I watch other organizations, I think about the lighting. And here's the other thing. I went back and watched some of the World Series of Fighting. I went down this like rabbit hole of watching some of the World Series of Fighting, which is what the PFL was called before. The lighting was way better. I don't know what happened. Anyway, so if you guys don't know, there's it's called the Professional Fighters. The PFL is the Professional Fighters League. So what they have is a regular season where you have, I think it's just 2 fights. You have 2 fights and you get points. If you get a decision win, you get 3 points. If you get a stoppage win, depending on what round you get it in, you get a bonus. So if you do it in the first round, if you get a stoppage win in the first round via submission or knockout, right? I don't think doctor stoppages count. I don't know. I'd have to look. You get 3 bonus points. Second round, you get 2 bonus points. And in the third round, you get 1 bonus point. So if you get a finish, you'll at least get 4 points with a maximum of being 6. And based off how many points you get from your first 2 fights from the regular season, you get a placement in the playoffs. Then you have a playoff and a championship, similar to how other sports do it. So this PFL was notable because it was the departure of Anthony Pettis from the UFC since he came over from the WEC. So this is the first time he's fought in another organization outside of the UFC since he came to the organization, like, what, 8 years ago, 9 years ago now, something like that. And he got kind of just destroyed by Clay Collard.
Whew.
And like, Clay Collard's a good boxer and all, and like a decent MMA fighter, but I don't think he's on the level of Anthony Pettis. I don't know what the hell this was. And then at the end of the fight, Anthony Pettis lands a big head kick and then a great knee and puts Collard on his ass. But it's too little too late. He didn't get the finish, so Collard held on and like got the win. So lackluster initial performance for Pettis. I really wish him nothing but the best. I just thought, I don't know. I thought this was kind of like a for sure thing for him.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how fighters are doing in other arenas and other, leagues as they transition out of the UFC and seeing what some of the competition is doing outside the UFC. I think it definitely makes PFL more interesting. That's for sure, and draws a little bit more attention to what they're doing and some of the fighters that they have.
Oh, that's the other thing I didn't mention. The winner of that weight class, right? The champion of the weight class after that tournament, if you win, you get $1 million. Guaranteed.
Which is more than many UFC fighters again. So
yep. So a lot of these fighters going to the PFL like know that, like, if I'm the best, I'm gonna make $1 million regardless. It's
you
gonna
can't
take
say
me
that about
4
every
fights.
champ in the UFC.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there was a Haibulev beat Stojadinovic, and he ended up just beating him. I think it did a decision. And then Bubba Jenkins beats Lance Palmer. So Lance Palmer has won the PFL, I think, 3 years in a row now, or 3 times in a row now. I don't remember, but a lot. Anyway, Lance Palmer, who is like arguably, one of the best featherweights in the world, has been fighting in the PFL because he knows it's just like a guaranteed $1 million for him. But Bubba Jenkins came in here and just outpointed him for all 3 rounds. So maybe not, which is weird.
It is interesting. Yeah, we can cover this a little bit more moving forward, especially as the season just opened up, and see in the hunt for the million, who's going to make it there.
Yeah, that's the kind of why I want to cover it, just because I think it would be fun to watch, the championship fight with $1 million on the line.
Absolutely.
Brendan Loughnane beats Shaymon Moraes, who previously fought Marlon Moraes for the title in World Series of Fighting. Did really well. Actually, rocked Marlon when Marlon was just on a tear, just beating through everybody in World Series of Fighting, and Brendan knocked him out in the first round. So that was cool.
And speaking of fighters from other fight leagues coming over, we got the preview for UFC 262 last night. So Charles Oliveira versus Michael Chandler.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is hilarious because they just keep recycling the one UFC fight Michael Chandler has, because
Yeah,
they can't use any of his highlight.
Which is so
stuff.
Stupid.
They will not say the name. I don't think I've heard them say Bellator once. It's like it does. It's like it magically doesn't exist, and they won't reference him.
They say other organizations.
Yeah.
Like we don't know what other organization it is.
Scare. Yeah, I find that incredibly entertaining when I watch them just replays highlights from one fight and talk and never say the word Bellator, or bring up
I can't
his
just Google his
there.
name and find out what he was fighting in. It's so stupid.
Or some of the incredible fights he had, or and I think
his wars with Eddie Alvarez.
They're doing themselves a disservice by not using it to build him up. I think that's what's dumb about it to me. It's like, acknowledge it exists. Use his success over there to build him up as someone interesting and someone that could actually be, a reigning champ in the UFC. It doesn't hurt your organization that someone else was doing good outside and now is in your organization. That's a good thing.
Marcin Held beat Nathan Schultz too. Nathan Schultz was also a previous PFL champ. Marcin Held is a not a washout of the UFC, but when he stepped up in competition to the UFC, he just kind of couldn't cut it.
Mm.
But anyway, okay, I think that's it. We'll preview later this week. So, in the comments below, let us know what you thought about UFC 261. Are you covering? Are you watching the PFL this season? Are you gonna like venture outside of the UFC and watch some other MMA this year? Let us know.
Yeah.
Comment, like,
If you
subscribe,
want
all
us
that
to
stuff.
cover a little more Bellator or more PFL or one championship, let us know. Well,
We are. I don't care what people want. We are covering Bellator. Anthony Rebel Johnson's fighting. Fighting Yoel Romero. We are covering it. Damn it.
Just when I thought we were done, we get pulled back into the Yoel Romero talk.
I mean, they don't do the same kind of drug testing over there, so I don't know. Maybe we get old Yoel, whatever that means.
Well, we're definitely going to get old Yoel. So, all right,
55-year-old. All right. Thanks everybody for listening. Appreciate y'all, and I hope you guys have a great day.
Oh yeah.